Hey guys, Brian here at Mets Mayhem. The New York Mets and the Arizona Diamondbacks played Game 1 of a 3-game series at Citi Field on Tuesday. The Mets came into this game with a record of 20-9, the first team in Major League Baseball to have 20 wins. And the Diamondbacks come into this game with a record of 15-13. It's a battle of lefties. David Peterson on the mound for the Mets, going up against Eduardo Rodriguez for the Diamondbacks. As always, thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. If you want to support the channel, I would appreciate if you like the video and subscribe to the channel. But enough of that. Game 1, Mets Diamondbacks, Citi Field. Let's get into it. Geraldo Perdomo leading off for the Diamondbacks against David Peterson in the top of the first inning. And Peterson works him down in the zone the entire at bat. He gets the count to 2-2 before Perdomo lines a curveball into right field for a base hit. Now that brings up Corbin Carroll, runner on first, no one out. And Peterson gets ahead of him 1-2. He runs a slider down and in on him. Gets him to ground out to Pete Alonso at first base for the first out. Perdomo moves to second on the out. Brings up Randall Grichuk, batting third. He falls behind 1-2 before Peterson gets him to chase a slider down and in for the strikeout, second out of the inning. Now the left fielder Lourdes Gurriel Jr., the Diamondbacks cleanup hitter, he's up, 2 outs, runner in scoring position. He works the count full against Peterson, but he grounds out to Alonso, who makes a nice diving play, tosses to Peterson covering the bag, and that's the third out. Francisco Lindor leading off the bottom of the first inning, batting right-handed against Eduardo Rodriguez. He takes the first pitch ball, but then he pops up the next pitch to Pavin Smith at first, and that's 1 out. Juan Soto then up. He strikes out looking at a 2-2 sinker in the outside corner. That's the second out of the inning. Pete Alonso comes up, and he will not let the Mets go 3 up, 3 down. He gets ahead 2-1, and then he takes a changeup off the plate, grounding it to the right side for a base hit. So with Alonso at first and 2 outs, that brings up Starling Marte. Marte is batting cleanup in this game with the lefty going on the mound. And Rodriguez works Marte inside, gets him to pop up to Pavin Smith at first, and that ends the first inning. Third baseman Eugenio Suarez leading off the top of the second, and he grounds a 3-2 changeup to Mark Vientos at third, who fires across the diamond to Alonso to complete the first out. Catcher Gabriel Moreno now up, and he goes first pitch hunting, hits a ground ball between first and second, that Pete Alonso ranges to his right, makes a diving stop. He throws to Peterson covering first from his knees, and he gets a second out. Fantastic play by Alonso. So the Mets definitely came to play defense in this game, and this is, only the second of many great defensive plays in this game. Pavin Smith up now with 2 outs. He grounds out to Alonso as well. Peterson covering, and that's the third out. Mark Vientos batting fifth and leading off the bottom of the second inning, and he grounds an 0-2 fastball to shortstop Geraldo Perdomo, who fires to Pavin Smith at first for the first out. That brings up Luis Angel Acuña. He's batting 6th in the lineup today. He lines a 1-0 inside cutter to center field for a base hit. Brings up Francisco Alvarez, who's behind the plate in this game, and he gets just under one, pops up a 1-0 cutter to first base Pavin Smith in foul territory for the second out. So the Mets have 2 outs, Acuña at first, Tyrone Taylor playing center field in this game, who's now batting. Taylor jumps a first pitch slider down and in. He pulls it into the left field corner for a double. Acuña is going on contact. It's 2 outs. He races all the way home from first. He scores the first run of the game, gives the Mets an early 1-0 lead. Great hit by Taylor. Great base running by Acuña. That brings up Jose Azocar, who's getting the start in left, with Brandon Nimmo getting the day off. Mendoza says that Brandon wasn't feeling well, had a stomach bug, but I honestly would have rested him in today's game anyway against the lefty. I know he just came off a 9 RBI game, but let him feel himself a little bit more. Let him feel himself through this day off, come back Wednesday's game against the righty Corbin Burns. So, anyway, Azocar takes advantage of his opportunity, takes a 1-2 fastball at the top of the zone. He lines it the other way into right field. That drives in Taylor, gives them a 2-0 lead. Now we go back to the top of the lineup. Francisco Lindor getting his second at bat in as many innings. And he falls behind 0-2. Before he goes down, he reaches for a slide at the bottom of the zone. And he kind of lost it to left field, and it just keeps carrying. It goes over the fence. It actually hits the top of the fence, and it's ruled a 2-run home run. His 6th home run of the season. The call was reviewed, upheld, So the Mets are now up 4-0. Juan Soto comes up. He attacks the first pitch he sees. He lines it, but he lines it to center field. Jorge Barrosa catches it, and that ends the second inning. So David Peterson now with a 4-0 lead in the top of the third. He faces second baseman Tim Tawa leading off. And Peterson gets ahead 2-2, gets him to fly out to center field on a slider on the outside corner for the first out. Center field, Jorge Barrosa now up. He strikes out on a 1-2 slider at the bottom of the zone for the second out. So now back to the top of the lineup for the Diamondbacks. Geraldo Perdomo back up, and he gets on base again. He doubles to left field. So that brings up Corbin Carroll, 2 outs, runner in scoring position. And Peterson gets him to hit a dribbler in front of the plate. Alvarez pounces on it, tosses to Alonso at first, and that retires the side. Pete Alonso leading off the bottom of the third inning, and Rodriguez walks him on a 3-1 pitch. Starling Marte makes the Diamondbacks pay immediately by crushing a 2-1 inside cutter for a 2-run home run to left field. It was crushed to extend this Mets lead now to 6-0. That brings up Mark Vientos. He reaches for a 1-0 outside change, grounds it to Perdomo at short for the first out. Rodriguez then gets Luis Angel Acuna to reach as well for a changeup out, down and out of the zone, but he manages to bloop it to right field for a base hit. That brings up Francisco Alvarez. He jumps on the first pitch he sees, an inside cutter, and flies out to left. Lourdes Gurriel Jr. makes a catch for the second out. So Tyrone Taylor up again, Acuna on first base again. This time Acuna swipes second base, his 7th stolen base of the season, and then Taylor lines a 1-2 pitch into left field, and that scores Acuna and makes this a 7-0 game. So Azocar is up again, 2 outs, Taylor at first, hits a low sinking line drive to center, Barrosa comes in, he's charging, he makes kind of a half shoestring, half semi slide on his knees catch, but that ends the bottom of the third inning. So we go to the top of the fourth inning, and if there was ever an inning to be on a highlight reel for defense, this would be it. This was an absolutely fantastic, fun inning to watch. Peterson's back on the mound. He has a 7-0 lead. We have Randal Grichuk leading off. Peterson gets ahead of yet another batter, 1-2, before getting Grichuk to hit a hard ground ball to Mark Vientos at third. Vientos dives to his left, gets a glove on it, but he's not able to handle it. The ball gets knocked up in the air towards Lindor at shortstop, who gloves it, then transfers it to his throwing hand, fires to first, and gets the out. Not only did he get the out, but he got Grichuk out easily. He was 15 to 20 feet away from the bag. Fantastic play by Lindor, staying engaged this whole time. The wherewithal to glove that ball in the air and fire for the out. I mean, it was amazing. You're going to see this play on replay throughout the year. So Lindor has been robbed since being a Met of both a Gold Glove and an All-Star selection. This lunacy needs to stop this year. He should hopefully get the first of both this season if he keeps this up. So now we have Lourdes Gurriel up. He takes an 0-1 slider deep to left center field. Tyrone Taylor, who is shaded over to the right side of center field, is racing over. He dives up against the left center field warning track, full extension, and makes this catch. He takes away a sure double from Gurriel. Fantastic play. This is probably in the running for play of the year, where the first play was just a fantastic, amazing play. It had a little bit of luck to it, where the ball kicked off of Vientos' glove in the air right to Lindor, who just had the wherewithal to make that play. The range that Taylor had to cover here, the dive, the extension, tremendous. So, 2 batters, 2 fantastic defensive plays, 2 outs. Brings up Eugenio Suarez now up, and he hits a line drive, kind of short hops Francisco Lindor, and it's a high hop, but he stayed with it. Kind of backhanded it, played through the tough hop, fired to Alonso for the third out. This was not an easy play at all. When you compare it to the first 2, it almost looks routine, but it wasn't. So this is one of the best defensive innings you will ever see. Definitely the best that I can recall. Fittingly, Francisco Lindor leads off the bottom of the fourth inning against Eduardo Rodriguez, gets in ahead of the count 3-1, but he pops up to Tim Tauer at second base for the first out. So that brings up Juan Soto, and he lines out to Gurriel in left field for the second out. Pete Alonso now up, 2 outs, no one on. He works the count full. He catches a 3-2 changeup at the bottom of the zone, and he absolutely blasts this ball to left field. 7th home run of the season. Mets now lead 8-0. Starling Marte follows him, but he grounds out to Perdomo at short for the third out, ending the fourth inning. Gabriel Moreno leading off, falls behind Peterson 0-2. He chases the slider down and out of the zone, but he manages to line it to left for a single. So leadoff man on for Pavin Smith, and Smith takes a 2-2 sinker away, the opposite way, grounding it into left field to put runners on first and second. So the Diamondbacks have their first legitimate threat of the game now. Tim Tauer now up, runners first and second. He grounds a 2-1 sinker that Alonso makes his third diving stop of the game, gets to his knees, tosses to Lindor covering second to force out Pavin Smith for the first out. Of the three, this is probably the most impressive stop that Alonso has made in this game to this point. So that brings up Jorge Barosa. Runners at the corners. Peterson leads a 2-1 sinker a bit up. Hits a fly ball to right field. Soto runs over to make the play. He dives, unable to secure it. Moreno scores. Tauer moves to third. The player scored a base hit, so the score is now 8-1 Mets. Top of the order for the Diamondbacks. Geraldo Perdomo up. He gets jammed inside on a 2-1 pitch. Hits the ball right back to Peterson, who has Tauer at third base too far off the bag. Is able to fire to Vientos, who makes the tag on him. Forces him out of third. Second out now. Runners now on first and second for Corbin Carroll, who's been pretty silent so far. And he grounds out to Acuna, who makes a throw over to Alonso, and that retires the Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks go to their bullpen to bring on Ryan Nelson to pitch the bottom of the fifth inning. Nelson gets the Mets in order, getting Mark Vientos to fly out to Corbin Carroll on right. Luis Angel Acuna lines out to Tim Tauer at second. And Francisco Alvarez strikes out on a 3-2 pitch, chasing a 96-mile-an-hour fastball, up and in, but out of the strike zone. Jose Butto now comes on in relief of David Peterson on the top of the sixth inning. Right now, this is how I would draw it up if you're going to bring Butto in the game, starting a fresh inning, as he's been killing us of late with inherited runners, but the following inning, he's been great. So, no one's on to start this inning, and no one got on. Butto retired the Diamondbacks in order. He got Grichuk to strike out looking at a knee-high slider over the plate. Lourdes Gurriel grounded one back to the box. Butto threw over to Alonso for the second out. And then he got Eugenio Suarez to chase a slider down and out of the zone, striking him out to end the top of the sixth inning. Ryan Nelson still on the mound for the Diamondbacks in the second inning of work. He gets the Mets out in order again. He gets Tyrone Taylor to ground back to the box, tossed over to Pavin Smith to complete the first out. Jose Azocar lines out to Jorge Barosa in center field for the second out. And Francisco Lindor pops up to third base, Eugenio Suarez making the play to end the sixth inning. Jose Butto still on the mound for the Mets. He faces Gabriel Moreno, leading off the Diamondbacks top of the seventh inning. And Moreno gets beat up and in on a 2-2 95-mile-an-hour fastball for the first out. Butto then walks Pavin Smith on a 3-2 fastball just off the corner to put a runner on first, but he comes right back. He strikes out Tim Tauer on 3 pitches, chasing a slider out of the zone for the second out, and then he gets Jorge Barosa to line out to Tyrone Taylor in center for the third out. Juan Soto leading off the bottom of the seventh inning, and he draws a 3-1 walk, and that brings up Pete Alonso. And Ryan Nelson, now in his third inning relief, gets Alonso to ground into a 2-2 10th pitch slider right to Eugenio Suarez at third base, who tosses over to Tim Tauer at second, fires over to Pavin Smith at first, and that completes the 5-4-3 double play. Soto was erased, 2 outs, no one on. Starling Marte now up, and Marte draws a 3-2 walk. So Mark Vientos now up, runner on first, 2 outs, but Vientos hits a ground ball to Perdomo at short, who forces out Marte at second, and that ends the seventh inning. So just called up today, Kevin Herget comes on to pitch the top of the 8th inning. He gets leadoff batter Geraldo Perdomo to fly out on a 3-2 count to Jose Azocar on left. He then works the count full again to Corbin Carroll, but is able to get him to fly out to Azocar on left as well. So 2 batters, 2 quick outs. Brandon Grichuk up, who's robbed by Tyrone Taylor of a double early in the 4th. This time it's a fly ball that Azocar is not able to get. It bounces towards Taylor in the center for a double for Grichuk. So Lourdes Gurriel with a runner on second and 2 outs. Hits a ground ball to Vientos at third, who makes a nice play, but he doesn't really set his feet. He throws across his body. It bounces in front of Alonso, who's unable to secure the scoop at first. So Gurriel reaches on a throwing error charged to Vientos. Grichuk scores, and that makes this an 8-2 game. But Herge gets the third out, getting Eugenio Suarez to hit an 0-1 cutter to Azocar to retire the side. So 3 fly ball outs to Azocar in left field. Herge gets his first inning of work in the books. So Ryan Nelson in his 4th inning of work, and he really saved the Diamondbacks bullpen, did a fantastic job. He gets the Mets 3 up, 3 down again. Luis Angel Acuna lined out to Carroll in right field for the first out. Francisco Alvarez is struck out looking on a 2-2 inside fastball that may have been ball 3. Tyrone Taylor is caught looking as well on a down and in fastball that caught plenty of the plate, but that ends the 8th inning. Herget's still on the mound for the Mets, his 2nd inning of work. Top of the 9th inning we go, Gabriel Moreno leading off, and he flies a 2-2 inside fastball to Tyrone Taylor in center field for the first out. That brings up Pavin Smith. He jumps on the first pitch he sees, an 87-mile-an-hour belt-high cutter, and grounds an infield single to short. Garrett Hempson, who replaced Tim Tower earlier on in the bottom of the 8th inning, lines out on an 0-1 cutter to center field. I'm sorry, that's not an out. He actually lines a base hit to center field for a base hit. So that puts the runners on first and second with 1 out. Jorge Barroso up. Herget throws a wild pitch, advancing Smith and Hempson to second and third with 1 out. And Barroso works the count full before grounding out to Acuna at second base. Tosses over to Alonso to secure the out. 2 outs. Pavin Smith scores on the ground out. Hampson advances to third. So it's an 8-3 game now. Runner at third, 2 outs. Geraldo Perdomo up, and Herget strikes out Perdomo, watching a 2-2 inside corner fastball, and that ends the game. So the Mets win this game 8-3. First of 3 at home versus Diamondbacks. Let's get into the takeaways and the Mets Mayhem player of the game. So the Mets Mayhem player of the game is actually not going to be a player. It's going to go to the Mets defense overall. The Mets made countless fantastic defensive plays that you just can't overlook. Pete Alonso made 3 outstanding diving stops at first alone. Francisco Lindor made 2 great plays in the top of the 4th inning, and Tyrone Taylor going full-on Superman in left center field onto the warning track was just amazing. So the Mets defense is the Mets player of the game for this one. Offensively, the Mets keep on rolling. Francisco Lindor, Starling Marte, Pete Alonso all homered. Luis Acuna was 2 for 4. He scored 2 runs, swiped to 7th base. Tyrone Taylor, aside from being a defensive wizard, was 2 for 4, had 2 RBIs. Jose Azocar getting the spot start, got a big hit early on in the game to drive in the Mets' 2nd run of the game. David Peterson picks up his 2nd win of the season, going 5 innings. He allowed 1 run on 5 hits, didn't walk a batter, and struck out 2. I would have liked to see Peterson go another inning. He was only at 85 pitches at this point. He had just started his 3rd time around this lineup. It's the middle of the Diamondbacks lineup up. But maybe Mendoza's thinking more big picture and how this can keep Peterson strong and fresh late in the season. So if that's the case, I'm okay with it. Jose Budo came on, this time without any runners on, and he had 2 crisp shutout innings, striking out 4. Kevin Herget, who was just called up, went 2 innings, gave up 1 run on 3 hits and a strikeout. He did his job. He ate up the final 2 innings of this game. He's going to be sent back down. The Mets will recall left-hander Brandon Waddle after this game. The Mets moved to 21-9. They're 13-1 at home. They dropped the Diamondbacks to 15-14. Game 2 of this 3-game series is set for Wednesday at 7:10 p.m. Eastern. The Mets are pushing back the rotation a day to give their starters another day off between starts. So the Mets are going for a bullpen game. Huascar Braziban will get the start as the opener, but expect Brandon Waddle, if not the second reliever the third reliever in this game, and hopefully he gives the Mets bulk innings. Waddle is not a prospect. He's 30 years old. He spent a couple of seasons in the KBL. He's pitching with Syracuse this season, and he has a 1.54 ERA in 23 1/3 innings, striking out 21 batters. So I'll be back to recap the game and provide any other noteworthy Mets news. But until then, Mets fans, let's go Mets.